Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Trace Armstrong and Rob McIntyre. We are here to do a recap on the Challenge Ride or Dies, Season 38, Episode 16. We wanted to give a few patron shout-outs before we get started. Thank you for your support, Nicole, Diane, Ton Hokio, and Humpty Dumpty, the real patron saint of the show.
Where everything falls apart on a regular basis.
If you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/The Challenge Chronicles and subscribe for $4 per month. After this episode, we plan to record an episode on a look back at the prop bets that we made before season 38, see how our predictions are holding up, and kind of giving a recap of that. Before we get into the recap for episode 16, what did the two of you think of it overall?
I enjoyed it. It was solid. It was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It wasn't quite to the level of some of the last episodes before the final of a couple of the other seasons, where I think that's been the most interesting episode typically for a couple of seasons running. So it wasn't on that point, but I still thought it was very good.
It was all right. I thought the mission was good. I thought the elimination was good. And I thought that they were on the border of actually showing us some content that didn't have to do with relationships, gameplay, and existential moments.
Wasn't sad.
But right when they started to show us that content, they took the foot off the gas and just fucking let the car die. So let's get into the recap for episode 16. Everyone gets back to the house. Johnny says that there's 5 teams left, and he talks about how somehow to this point in the game, he hasn't been perceived as that big of a threat. And that was kind of his game plan coming into the season, was to maintain a low profile. And he's done that to this point. Jordan and Anissa talk about the elimination that they just went through, and that they're one of the toughest teams to beat in elimination. Anissa says that this is a redemption season for her, and that she's been doing the challenge for 20 years, and it would be nice to finally win one. And she talks about how she's happy to have Jordan as a partner, and then we randomly get Olivia, her take on the situation in this scene, where she says that she's happy to see them back in the game, but her and Horacio are unstoppable. Is this where we get the Horacio and Olivia winners at it going into the final of episode 17 and 18?
I don't see that happening.
So. I thought this was so odd, just because Olivia had just put them into elimination against Chauncey and Amber, who she seemed to have some sort of agreement with. So she's like happy to see them back, but you were the one who like put them in elimination.
You'd think.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's just to the point where there's so few people in the house that I think all these people probably have relationships with each other.
Yeah, there's something about being together for 9 weeks that creates a Stockholm syndrome type situation, I think, by this point.
How do you think that Olivia will do in a final? Because I think I'm of the belief that she's just going to gas out and she has no idea what she's getting into. That
opinion is mine.
Even pretty skeptical for it throughout the season. I feel like I've been a little bit higher on her. I think it's just hard to say. They didn't do great on the mini final.
I think that she's a fine competitor. I think she's a good player. I just don't think that she's going to do well in a final.
I just think most rookies, unless if they're tied to a CT or Wes or Jordan type partner, it's going to be a lot for them to do a final.
So you don't think Amber B did well in a final when she was a rookie?
I said unless you're tied to CT or Jordan or Wes or Johnny or somebody, like unless you're tied to one of those players. Like I think she was helped out a lot by having CT.
She was helped out a lot by CT, but I think CT was helped out a lot by having Amber B. I mean, There were definitely instances there where she contributed more in certain aspects than CT did.
Amber's biggest asset in that final was it was so much long distance running followed by a slow, small checkpoint. And their lead was so large because she could run. And so, like, it was an asset in that final. Whereas, like, Spies, Lies, and Allies, I think she would have performed more poorly because it was more like long checkpoints and a little bit of distance running in between each checkpoint.
Speaking of assets,
I just think
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I just think from a pacing perspective, with the two rookies like that, I don't know if they're really going to know how to judge how to extend their effort to the final.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do well. I think it's, and we talked about this last week, or at least I had mentioned it, that I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe for them. And I think that there's just a lot that just even being in one final before it gives you from an experience perspective, that not only physically you know what to expect, but I think mentally you also know what to expect.
Yeah. And based on the trailer, this is going to be a very interesting final.
We can talk about that now. So we found out that the final for episodes 17 and 18 is going to be 100 hours. I personally could give a shit if they do something like that. Like, I don't
know what that means.
It's 4 days.
But like, okay, how much are they sleeping? How much are they actively participating?
Well, I'm sure they're
events?
going to
how
sleep.
Much are they
you can't keep these people up for 3 nights. Like that's negligent.
Well, that's kind of my point. Like, it can be over 100 hours. All right, great. Like, the NBA Finals is over a week and a half. Like, it's just, that doesn't mean anything to me to say it's over 100 hours. I don't know to what degree and for how long they're actually expending effort during that 100 hours. Like, have to be the World of One's one final for 100 hours?
I would imagine that they do the final for the day and they sleep at night, and there may be some type of situation where some people are given better sleeping arrangements based off of their performance throughout certain points in time.
Mm-hmm.
But based off of the length of the final, I almost wonder if they're even going to do that, because if someone draws the short end of the stick for a few days in a row and isn't able to sleep, I don't think that's going to be a good situation that they want to be in.
Now, if anything, I think that this final format will play into the top 2 teams we've been predicting would be the top 2 teams this whole time.
I still think
it's even like the yacht breaks they get like on All Stars 3. Like, I think that they can just chill for part of it too.
I still think it's going to be Johnny and Nany that win. Rob, you've said that you think it's going to be Tori and Devin. I just don't see it. They definitely could win, but I just think it's unlikely based off of what we've seen so far.
I think I've been in Devin's or Rob's camp the whole time. I think it's going to be Tori and Devin as well, and it's mostly because they don't have to beat Bananas; they have to beat Nany.
Yeah, I just think that they have much more in the tank.
What do you mean? I think that Nany could probably potentially beat both of them in a final.
I don't agree at all.
Nany was by far the worst person in the final for Spies, Lies, and Allies. Like, she held Leroy up the entire time. Or not Spies, Lies, and Allies, Double Agents, excuse me.
Yeah, but we've seen that Nany, like, I would say physically is in a different condition this season than she has been in seasons past. And I think Devin, all we've seen from Devin is he's a fucking train wreck when it comes to endurance. Like, have we ever seen that Devin is good?
He was fine in Spies, Lies, and Allies. He was not great, but he was in a better place. Like, I think I don't even think
the endurance missions this season.
Which ones?
They've only won one mission.
Run back between the puzzles. Well, not even just winning a mission. They were better than them in the puzzle mission. They had run back and forth with the puzzles. Johnny and Nany were the last place team.
I don't think they were trying. They weren't even trying to win.
Come on.
Well, but then how can we say she's shown better?
There's no fucking incentive for them to win on a lot of these. That was literally their whole plan this whole season. All right, let's talk about something else, dude. You want to bet money on this? How much you want to bet?
Yeah, I'll happily bet you.
What kind of odds are you going to give me?
Tori and Devin win.
What kind of odds are you going to give me?
Well, you just said you think they win. Well,
so
how much odds would you want? You said you think they win. I said I think Tori and Devin win.
All right, Moriah.
I would say it's about as close to. I will say this though: between Devin and Tori and Johnny and Nany, it's basically a pick'em. Like, I don't think that there's going to be great odds either way, because if you told me either one of those teams won, I'd go, of course. I see zero chance that Jordan and I don't see Aneesa finishing this final. There is literally zero chance that she makes it 4 days.
She's just not going to make it.
What odds would you want, Devin?
Talk while I think about it.
Okay.
Talk about Aneesa.
Well, I think Aneesa probably DQing. Yeah, I think that.
I think the best odds is like
split up.
It's probably minus 400 that Aneesa doesn't finish a 4-day final.
Minus 400 is tough, but yeah, this is just.
All right, I'll give you minus 350 that Aneesa does not finish this final.
it's just hard to see her lasting that long. It's 100 hours. It's
I
4
can't
days.
imagine her lasting through 2 days, much less 4.
Like, I think
I want-
Horatio and Olivia are like 50-50 to quit.
I think they'll
Yeah, I
finish,
mean-
but they're not going to be impressive.
That's honestly kind of why it's a little bit disappointing that Fessy and Moriah went home, because I think that would have made the final much more competitive, because right now it's a 2-team race.
Mhm.
It's going to be Johnny and Nany, or it's going to be Devin and Tori. And if Fessy and Moriah would have been in the final, would they have been the favorites?
I still think Tori and Devin. I would have leaned them. I've been there the whole season.
Yeah,
Why do you think
I would think they would be competitive, but I don't know that Fessy and Moriah win, because they've shown all season that they can work well together in short bursts, but long term, Fessy's just going to yell at her, and over 4 days, I could imagine her motivation to win for him is going to drop significantly if they were in it.
So why do you think Tori and Devin are such clear favorites?
Well, I think Tori's the best of the women. I would have by a decent margin. That's honestly, and in pair finals, that's a huge determining factor. It's just who has the best girl between everybody. And then with Moriah, we haven't seen her do a final before. I would think that they're definitely in the ballpark. It wouldn't be a surprise at all to see them win. Devin also has talked about, and maybe I'm just falling prey to his, chicanery here. But in the final last season, part of why he didn't put a full effort he seemed to be so bad in the last leg, was he realized that they just weren't going to outrun Tori and Kyle or Casey and CT. So he just was pretty much just take his time and make sure that he nails the entire code for the safe coming up, which is why he looked a little bit slower on the run at the end. And he honestly, his endurance hasn't always been bad. He's shown times in the past where it's been fine. I think in the two many final events this season, he's actually looked pretty good endurance wise. We haven't seen any come into play at all so far this season. So if you look at the weaknesses of everybody on the table, where Fessy has yet to perform to any high level in a final, Moriah was just a question mark. We don't know. Bananas and Nany, I just have not been impressed with Nany at all over the past couple seasons. I've always been pretty skeptical she has been able to fully complete and do well in a final if it's run equitably. And so I would just lean Tori and Devin. Obviously, there's also the thing that we talk about where just these finals suck, so maybe the final just sucks. But I think if it's even at all, I think Tori and Devin should win.
Yeah, before you jump back in, Devin, I think the other thing to keep in mind with this is there's the Fresh Meat 2 anomaly. Somehow Landon drug Carly across that finish line and beat Kenny and Laurel. I mean, did anybody really think that Landon was that big of a Superman to pull Carly across that finish line in Fresh Meat 2? And then on the other piece of this, if Nany can't win this final with Banana, she's never winning. Like, ever. It's not going to happen. This is her last chance for a win.
I mean, it just seems like every fucking episode we get how this is Nany's season. Johnny's here to help out Nany. Like, I don't know if we would be getting it to this degree if they don't actually win.
Well,
like,
I think you could play the
at the same
side.
time, there's no fucking winners at it in the challenge. It doesn't exist. But I don't know. It just seems like that's the way this season's shaping up, and I would be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Sure. And I think you could also make the flip side to your argument, which is they're showing you all that content so that when they lose, it's like you really feel for Nany that she lost again. So I could see it both sides of that coin.
But why would
I
they
also
have done
think with
that
her
in
mom
seasons?
dying?
Good.
Well, I think with her mom dying, they really centered on that as a pretty central storyline. Her and Casey's relationship has been a pretty prominent storyline. We guess we haven't gotten as much of Tori's done a lot of seasons now and hasn't gotten to win. She's been a very good, I think, a much better competitor than Nany throughout her challenge career. So it is somewhat interesting. I guess we haven't gotten that played as much. It also feels. Bananas has been pretty hidden though throughout this time. The only storyline he's had is helping out Nany really.
He's gotten more.
Mariah.
Yeah, he's gotten more screen time this episode than he has in 3.
I feel like you could say that about Devin too. I really don't think Devin's been that present in the storyline this season.
Everything in the story has been so sad.
Yeah, but he hasn't even gotten sad content.
No, he hasn't gotten much sad content. That would be the one thing. I do agree with you that it seems like they've been really rallying around Bananas and Nany, not only finally getting Gwen. I just wonder if, again, based on her mom dying and then her relationship with Casey and just the stuff they choose to circle around here, where everything has been such downer content that I just wonder if that the way they leaned from an overall product standpoint. It's not playing into as much who's going to win.
So when we look at the confessional counts to this point in the season, who would you, the two of you, guess cumulatively over the course of the season has the most confessionals?
I would say it's either Tori or
I think I
Devin
had
at this
Tori down
point.
for the most. I think it might have been Jordan, actually.
It's Jordan by a pretty significant margin. It's Jordan, then Fessy. So Jordan has 117, Fessy has 112, Tori has 109, Bananas has 105, Olivia has 96, Horacio has 94, and then it's Devin with 89.
Yeah, he hadn't been getting much. Jordan, the past couple weeks, had really spiked for confessions. He'd been having like a couple.
I think it's because they've made his and Tori's relationship the central storyline of the season. Like it's like the one story that won't die this season. So that's why he has that, and then he's also got the I'm gonna get Anissa her win story. So like the two central story plots are around him. So I don't think they're winning. I think it's absurd to think that he and Anissa are gonna win based on that.
Yeah, Devin's actually pretty low in fantasy points too. Like he's behind Amber, he's behind Anissa, he's behind Nelson still.
And since they're all go ahead,
has to be first in fantasy points, right?
Tori's first, Jordan's second.
How many eliminations has Jordan won?
He lost one already.
2 or 3?
Two or three. I think it's only 2.
It's only 2 because Anissa did the one solo when she was on the other team.
I don't think Anissa won an elimination.
No,
He beat Laurel and
week.
Jack.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, it was only the one with Jordan.
He was saying Anissa to won an individual one, which I
don't think she did. You're right. She didn't.
No, she didn't. They beat Laurel and Jack early on in the season. He lost to Horacio and then
beat Casey and Kenny.
I think it's just 2.
But doesn't he get points for going into elimination?
You don't get points just for going in.
I thought you said that at one point in time.
No, that'd be moronic. You get points for getting voted in? No way.
No, I definitely thought you said that at one point.
I could see, though, how Tori's number 1. If she's in the top 3 of confessionals, and like whenever they show her on screen, she's cried a lot this season, which gets you points. She's involved in fights, which gets you points. She's in politics, which gets you points. Like when they show her on screen, it's not usually useless content.
Yeah, so I don't know. Between Devin being buried, I wouldn't say being buried in the edit, but just not being as pronounced as some other characters, and the fact that I don't think I've ever seen any evidence that Devin is good from an endurance perspective, I don't think it's very cut and dry that they're the favorites going into this final.
You've talked me into it, because now they've also shown the Bananas West phone call, which we'll get to, and they did the opposite version in West won All Stars 3. Okay, you're talking me into it.
Because at this point in time, Johnny has close to 20 more confessionals than Devin does. All right. Let's get back to the recap. We pretty much just started. Let's start flying through this. Moriah and Bananas are stretching. Bananas is kind of like helping her stretch her ass out. Fessy brings up off to the side as they start to show Bananas running around the house and working out. Fessy brings up in a conversation with Jordan that Bananas has not been in an elimination this season one time. And they talk about how crazy that he's here after winning 7 champions and sliding his way to the end of the game. And then they kind of cut in content from Devin where he talks about how...
I don't think he's actually there for this conversation, right?
No, not at all.
Johnny's talking to Moriah across the yard.
They try and cut in Devin to make it look like he's also part of the conversation with Fessy and Jordan, but he's clearly not there.
Yeah.
And Devin talks about how he's going to try and get Bananas out at all costs if Tori and him get power, which, you know, doesn't
he left
happen.
Into it.
Surprise, surprise. The next scene after that, and I think they completely fucking ruin this scene, is they start with Tori and Devin pretending to have a spa day. And I got excited because I was like, okay, we could actually get something funny here. We could get something that's not a complete downer. This is the characters just fucking around in the house and having a good time. And they show it for like 2 seconds before they immediately cut to game talk where Tori is asking Devin who he thinks that they should what they should do with the votes if they get power this episode. And they do have like a couple quick seconds where Devin is like eating chocolate and he's putting cucumbers over his eyes, and Tori calls Devin Dave, but they could have made this so much more, and I think that they just didn't.
I didn't mind. At least to me, like, we're close to the end of the game. To me, knowing where everybody's at the house is something I want to know about. Like, I'm not opposed to that. I consider this much better than, like, I get what you were saying. I was hoping it'd be a bit more, let the moment breathe a bit more too. But at least it wasn't like, oh, what's the depressing story from back home that they're trying to overcome this week.
All they do this fucking episode is talk about where each other are with who wants to go in. Like, you could like cut some of that other stuff out and let this go a little bit longer.
I guess I get what you're saying. I just think with where we're at in the game, it makes some sense when it did want to focus on the gameplay.
No, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me because all they do this episode is focus on it. That's all they like. Literally, we're gonna go through this recap, and there's gonna be like 5 or 6 other scenes where Tori and Devin talk about, oh, what should we do? Oh, we have power now. Do we throw Fessy in? Do we throw bananas in? And it's just this constant like back or forth that they fill this 90-minute time slot up with. All right. Moriah and Fessy talk. Moriah says that they need to win tomorrow so that they can come back and relax and be in the final without having any possibility of going into the last elimination. Fessy says that they're probably going to go into elimination if they don't win the next challenge. And Moriah thinks that if Tori and Devin win, they're going to go into elimination because Devin doesn't want to see them in the final, which she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Tori says that, and then we get a random piece of content here from Tori where she talks about how Fessy barely talks in the house, which I think is interesting. In the next scene, Olivia talks about how it would make sense to throw someone else into elimination beside Olivia and Horacio because they're rookies and who wouldn't want to see them in elimination. And we get this narrative from Horacio here that comes up multiple times from him in this episode where he talks about how Johnny hasn't been into elimination yet, and the fair thing to do would be to send Johnny into elimination before the final. And I don't know what fucking fantasy land Horacio lives in where fair and right comes into play, but he's on the wrong show if he thinks that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, whenever I hear fair thing come up on the challenge, I'm like, okay, bro, go play Tiddlywinks. Like, this is not what we're in this for.
This is the same logic as someone on Reddit that said they should have thrown in Horacio so that he had a chance to break the single season elimination record. I'm like, who gives a fuck about a single season elimination record? I want to win $1 million.
I think Horacio's fine. I think Horacio's fine letting that one.
I saw that post and I was like, you must be 12 because anyone with a rational thought in their head would not say that.
Wes's record is way more impressive because of the number of opportunities that he had to go into elimination that season. That season was what, 10 episodes long?
Oh yeah, and he went in 6 of them. This one's
16. I think it's
and he also had to go in against all 3 of his friends, which made it worse. He had to send all 3 of his friends home.
Like, what Horacio's been is certainly impressive, but there's been so many freaking eliminations this season. Like, I mean, come on, there's so many of them.
In the next scene, Johnny talks about this moment right here. Like, what happens in this mission is what the season comes down to. He talks with Nany about how it's a miracle that they've made it this far unscathed, and he hopes that he's the only one in the house that's noticed that he hasn't gone to an elimination yet. No, I guess that doesn't make sense. In the last scene, or in the last moments before the mission, Olivia says that she thinks that they'll be the direct vote if they don't win, which I don't fucking get. They literally just showed her talking about how it would make sense to throw someone else into elimination and not 2 rookies. So I don't really get
who knows when it's coming. Maybe they just move confessionals around here was my thought.
But why did they even add it in? It just doesn't make sense
filling time. That's all we're doing is filling time in this episode with this. That's all it is, because
it just feels like we shouldn't need to do that though.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we all know all the competitors are acting as if this is the last mission and elimination before the final. They're all making that assumption. So in that case, who do you want to take to the final with you? You want to take the rookie team and you want to take Anissa's team. So really, you're just down to 2 choices.
We get the mission. It's called Frozen Senseless. I did like how they showed TJ having more personality when he's explaining the rules to them and having a conversation than they normally do. And I think that they should do more of that. And I think this kind of goes along with overall what I've thought about the show recently is that I think it's possible, if not likely, that TJ, the cast members, everyone involved is giving good content, and they've decided to show content that's just largely worthless. We learned here that Olivia is from Alaska, which I thought was interesting. And I liked this mission. I thought the format was good. I thought this was something that would be good to have right before a final. Everyone goes at once, tests a variety of different skills, and I think overall was very, very enjoyable to watch. What did the two of you think?
There was no half as long needed here. It was exactly the right amount of time, and it did exactly what it needed to do. And I was all in favor of all that content there. I liked it.
Everyone going at once. Thank God.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just way more enjoyable.
Do either of you guys take cold showers right fast?
Yes. I've also been to wow, this is going to sound really awful. There is like an Asian spa that's in Atlanta that I've been to that's really nice, and they have like one of those big ice baths you can get in.
I do cold showers every morning now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because just when this came up, I just didn't think it was like that bad. People do this all the time.
It is.
Filler
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, okay. It is bad though if you're in there trying to concentrate. Like that's the key to it. Like if you're just in there for muscle recovery and body health, like you can kind of stomach it. But if you're trying to like talk about something intelligently, your brain does not function in that type of cold. So that's to me what made that difficult.
We get a bunch of filler content while the mission goes on. Moriah says that Fessy is giving her too much information at a time. Johnny says it's difficult to communicate while you're in the ice. Moriah says that if she wins, she wants to buy a house and help her mom out. Horacio talks about how his communication with Olivia is great. And Johnny talks about how sometimes him and Nany can be on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum with their communication. Tori and Devin win. Fessy and Moriah looked like they weren't even close. It looked like they barely had any pieces on the board for where they should be. Johnny says that, but before we leave the mission, Johnny talks about, and this is kind of a narrative that we get throughout the rest of the episode, is Johnny talks about how he's resolved a lot of the issues he's had with Devin. And at this point, he's working with Devin. And we go back to the house and get a conversation between Johnny and Wes. And I think that they do a much better job with this on All Stars 3 than they do here, where we really don't even hear that much of the conversation. We kind of hear them talk about gameplay a little bit. And I do think it was funny where Johnny talks about how he needs to get in the mind of Devin, and to be able to get in the mind of a scumbag, he needs to talk with the biggest scumbag of all time. And then they show Wes's face, and in the Chiron just show scumbag.
Yeah, the Chirons were
so
good.
I thought that was really good.
There was Scumbag, internationally renowned genius. There was one related to his dog. I forget what it exactly was. That was funny. I don't know. I actually think I preferred this one over the All Stars 3 conversation. I thought the All Stars, both of them were really chopped up, which you don't like, just in that they didn't really just show us the clear conversation. They just added around it a ton. But the Chirons got me laughing more so than Johnny's antics on the All Stars 3 call.
Yeah, the All Stars 3 call seemed like it was more antics. This one, we actually got a piece of the conversation where Wes was like, yeah, you've been working with Devin, but Devin always has an angle. He's always working both sides. Like he basically confirmed and helped Johnny feel like what he was feeling was actually valid in the course of the game. And so I really appreciated that they showed that conversation from that perspective. They actually gave us some valid political content and not just shenanigans.
Didn't they show us, or didn't they have a Chiron at the beginning that said Johnny's best friend or something like that when they showed Wes 2? Wasn't that the initial one?
They did.
Probably. The other thing I thought was, I mean, Wes would prefer Devin wins over Johnny probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he wants Johnny to get another championship added to the ledger, versus Devin, who I know was like at his wedding, is supposedly one of his very good friends. Like I thought that was interesting with the All Star 3 call too, because I thought from Johnny's perspective he might prefer Derek to win over West, and now I was thinking he'd prefer Devin over Johnny in this situation. So I thought that angle was interesting.
I don't know. I don't think Wes really cares. I think what Wes wants is, as dumb as it sounds, just based on his interviews and stuff he's done, he just wants the challenge franchise to be successful and interesting. And so he thinks of the show like a producer. So I think he treats it as, what can I do to give the best content? And I think that's what his goal was in that call, is to like stir the water between Johnny and Devin a little further, to sow some seeds of doubt.
I agree. I think this
For
is
me,
a TV
honestly, one of the
moment.
most interesting things about the season.
I think this is a TV moment. I think that's what it was in All Stars 3. I think that's what it is now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to get these moments going forward.
For me, honestly, one of the most interesting things about the season has been how angry Johnny's been at the show. If you've listened to him, both just from his Twitter account or from him talking on his podcast and like clips you've heard from that, it just seems like he's been very upset with how the show has portrayed things to this point. To me, that's been about as interesting as anything going on TV.
So does that mean he's winning?
I don't know.
I don't know if that means he's winning.
I think there's probably three things at play here, and I kind of talked about this a little on Discord. Number one, Johnny Bananas has a giant ass ego, and he thinks the show should be built around him if he's on it. So since it's not, he's pissed. So there's number one. Number two, if he wins, he's like, you're not showing any of my content that shows how I won. You're just, giving me random ass confessionals that add nothing to the show. So there's number two. And then number three, he takes a pay cut to go on the show. Unless he wins, he takes a pay cut. So he's probably looking at it as, I came back to this show and I did all of my usual antics. I was stirring the pot. I was playing pranks, and they don't show 1 minute of that content. So what was the point of you guys having me on the show and me taking an appearance fee pay cut to show up?
Like with this episode, we get John and Devin have had this bromance for this whole season, but like that hasn't really been shown at all. Honestly, the most significant interaction was back
the second episode when they came back.
Johnny was like, Devin. Well, not even that, but like after that, we had Johnny accusing Devin of like playing all sides of the house when he wasn't up for elimination that one week, where he was upset about that. And then a different week where Devin seemed to be trying to convince Nelson to put him into elimination. So we haven't seen any of them actually working together, really.
We've gotten more evidence to the counter of them working together than we have gotten evidence of them working together.
We've had more counter to the evidence that Devin is not working with Bananas. We have not really... I really feel like from the edit that they did show from Bananas' viewpoint is he just assumed they were working together.
Yeah, I think he thought that they were working together, but at the same time, he knows that Devin is going to play every side. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what he talks about in this conversation with Wes. He talks about how Devin has simultaneously accused people in the house of playing both sides while he plays every side in the house. Johnny talks about how he's in a full-blown relationship with Devin. They show content of them throughout the season. We get into deliberation. Tori and Devin need to decide who they will throw directly into the elimination while the remaining three competitors go into the draw. Tori says that everyone is up for grabs except Anissa and Jordan, and that Fessy and Moriah are a much bigger threat than Johnny and Nany, whereas Devin believes that Johnny and Nany are the ones that should go into elimination. I almost wonder how much of this is just for TV and that he plays the other side to give them some type of content and parody and make it not seem like it's a completely straightforward vote.
I was thinking to that to some degree as well.
I could see it both ways, but I think it was more on the lines of Devin did have a concern of, hey, Johnny's won this 7 times, and are we going to do... Because he just got back from Spies, Lies, and Allies, where he let CT skate all the way through the final as well. So he probably had in the back of his mind, am I about to screw myself again by not throwing the most experienced competitor in?
Can you imagine doing that twice in a row? Like, CT doesn't go in one time, and then Johnny doesn't go in one time, and you have a chance to put him, don't put him in, and he still ends up going in, but it was out of chance more so than your direct influence.
Yeah.
And they win both times if Johnny wins this season. Like, I don't know how you can like sleep with yourself on that, because Rob, like how many times have Wes, Johnny, or CT won the last X number of seasons? Like, what is it?
Also,
somebody put this up recently.
Seasons they've been on, let's say.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting stat for you more than anything. Since Battle of the X's 2, there is only one season where either Jordan, Bananas, Wes, or CT didn't win, and that was Turbo.
What about Hunter and Ashley?
Oh, that's right, Hunter and Ashley. So there's 2 seasons.
And then Vendetta's like Carl wins, but there's no guy who does.
Maybe that was the crux of it. It was like Cara and the 4 of them, and then you just had Hunter and Ashley as anomalies. So
it's been a lot. I mean, so because like the seasons they've been on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's been the past 5 since World of Worlds 2, because CT and Jordan won World of Worlds 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then Johnny wins Total Madness. CT wins Double Agents. CT wins Spies and Allies. West wins All Stars 3. Johnny wins last season. I mean, it's been a lot.
It's pretty wild. And yet no one takes a shot at them.
That's part of their Jedi mind trick.
It's so weird.
Part of their Jedi mind trick. They somehow trick these people. The only time that they almost did it was Double Agents, where they were throwing Wes and CT in week 1, and it worked against them because it was a female elimination week, which I don't I don't doubt for a second the producers went, oh, fuck that shit. It's a female elimination week. Screw that.
Well, they throw Wes in again, but they kind of just forget about CT. They just let him hang around.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with Johnny this season, too.
Yeah. They just forget.
Well, I think part of it, too, is with his team's twist. They just kind of didn't know what to do with him. I also think with him being paired with Nany, they view his threat level as somewhat diminished. Yeah.
Well, he was also like on the winning side of like every team side, wasn't he, for the men?
Yeah. They had the one shot to put him in when they put in Fessy instead, where their whole mission was like, let's keep Chauncey around.
And see, I think that was also
Devin wanted to build up a relationship with Amber B.
Yeah, and that was also Bananas' Jedi mind trick, though, because he's underperformed, quote unquote, this year, and Fessy sticks out compared to him in terms of performance. Like, he had the whole cast believing that Fessy was the best male on the cast.
There's really no.
Who would you be more concerned about here, Fessy and Moriah or Johnny and Nany?
Fessy and Moriah, not even close.
I agree.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I get where it just seems crazy for Johnny not to go in again, but I very much understand why Tori and Devin thought Fessy and Moriah would be a bigger threat.
You just had months of time to take a shot at Johnny. You had plenty of time to take a shot at him and figure something out, and instead you're throwing in like, who are some of the bums that have gone home? Instead, you're taking shots at
Well, it's the worst one was
Johnny
Nelson putting it. No. The worst one was by far when Nelson puts in Amber and Chauncey when Johnny and Nany are sitting right there. Right, that was the worst one.
Yeah,
I would want to talk to him, understand what happened there. Maybe he has he gets 5% of Johnny's winnings if Johnny wins the season, but I don't understand what happened there.
Because it didn't seem like they were working together either, right? And it seemed like Amber B and Chauncey had a relationship with Nelson too. That's why it didn't really make much sense.
It's not like Amber B has any other allies. Like, she has kind of relationship with Michelle. That seemed to be about it.
All right. We start the interrogation. Horacio comes in. Actually, who comes in? I don't know. This is before... screw it. We don't even need to talk about that.
We don't need to talk about all this. Let's just fly through this really quickly.
Let's just fly through this really fast. So Horacio and Olivia talk about how they think they're going to be approached by Anissa and Jordan to work with each other to save each other in the draw if they go into the draw, because it seems like that's going to be the most likely outcome. We get into the interrogation. Olivia and Horacio come in, and she says that she hopes that their decision to save Tori and Devin last episode when they were in the draw would pay off now. And Horacio says that they would save Anissa and Jordan if they were in the draw with them. Anissa and Jordan come in, and Devin asked their advice on who they should throw in between Nany and Johnny and Fessy and Moriah. Jordan says that the one thing that would hold him up is that Johnny has not said his name the entire season, and that they're kind of like in the same room and have some type of relationship with each other. Fessy and Moriah come in. Devin says that they think it's going. Tori says that she thinks that the direct vote has to be Fessy and Moriah. Fessy says that they've done seasons together. I think he said that he's done 4 seasons together with Tori, and he's never said her name. And we find out later, he brings up that he's done 3 seasons with Devin, and he's also not said Devin's name, which I think is honestly kind of a compelling argument, right? Between 7 seasons between the both of them, he's never worked against them, which I think I would probably have a lot of weight to, but I still think the right vote is them. Yeah. Johnny and Nany come in. Nany says that they would save Anissa and Jordan if they were in the draw. And Johnny talks about how he came into the game willing to put everything aside when it comes to his differences with Devin and work together. And he brings up that he told Wes he was in a relationship with Devin. After that, Tori says Devin confuses her, and Devin says he still might want to put Johnny and Nany into elimination. We get a night out where nothing happens. No. Tori and Devin talk about what they want to do. Anissa and Olivia talk. They kind of build the narrative around what's going to happen in the draw if one of them pulls the safe dagger. Fessy and Devin talk. Devin talks about how Johnny skating to the final, and Devin brings up that I thought that this was kind of interesting. He brought up that he almost said that the reason he can't assure Fessy's safety is because of Tori. He didn't directly say that, but I thought he kind of indirectly said that, and I'm surprised more wasn't made of that.
Well, he said that Tori's top priority is keeping Anissa and Jordan safe. Someone intimating to me that he wants Fessy to guarantee he'll save them in the draw, which we never saw if that happened or not.
After the night out, Johnny talks about how he had a premonition, or he brings up a premonition that he had that before the season started or early on in the season, he thought that Devin was going to wait for the right time to strike in the game and make a big move against them. And he tells Nany about this, and Nany says that she's going to mentally prepare like they're going in, which regardless, she probably should, because even if they're not the direct vote, it's more than likely that they're going to be in elimination one way or the other, because the other 2 teams will protect each other in the dagger draw. And the last scene that we get before elimination, Fessy and Moriah talk. Fessy says that they're most likely to go in, and they just need to be prepared. We get to elimination. Devin and Tori send in Fessy and Moriah. It just felt like it was going to be that pretty much the entire episode. Devin says that he thinks that Fessy and Moriah are the strongest team left, and Fessy says it's frustrating because he's never said either of their names at any point in time. We get to the dagger draw. Johnny knows that if they don't pick the right dagger, they're going in. I thought it was interesting that they picked first, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. They don't pick the correct one. Horacio and Olivia pick the safe dagger, and Horacio, in some ass backwards way, delivers that Anissa and Jordan are safe. And the way that he stated the message made it seem like he was going to send them in. Olivia looked shocked for a moment until he finished his sentence of what he actually meant. And
did he mean to pump fake there?
No, I don't think he did. I think it just like came out that way naturally.
I at first I was like, what is he doing? Like I was taken aback for a second before I realized like what he actually said.
Nany, I don't know. Let's just get to the elimination. It's called Bridget. I thought this was a great elimination.
Phenomenal.
I thought this was a good matchup. Fessy really didn't seem like he couldn't get past a certain point. It didn't seem like he had the coordination to make it happen. Johnny and Nany win pretty easily. It doesn't seem like Moriah made it very far at all. Nany talked about how she's been pretty much she's done stuff like that, not stuff like this her whole life, but she's been in positions that have kind of helped her do well in this mission, from being a gymnast and being a cheerleader. Johnny's the first person to finish the elimination, and he has to wait until Nany is able to make it up to the top for them to win. Nany presses the button once she makes it up to the top. TJ, they show TJ with a little bit more personality here. He cheers on Nany too, talks about how impressive it was. And Fessy and Moriah go home. Johnny and Nany win. And TJ lets them know that it is finally time for them to go to the final. And that's the end of the episode.
How long would it have taken Fessy and Moriah to complete this?
Do you think that Fessy is capable of completing this?
No.
I don't know if he would have ever been able to do it.
I don't think he could have either. This is the perfect example of why I think someone the size of a Wes or a Johnny Bananas has a better shot at the show. Because when they do stuff like this, if you're tall or bulky, it's just hard to control your body weight. And that's really what this boiled down to for Fessy. He's what, 6'3", something like that. He's, broad-shouldered, he's got muscles, and so to control your body and make those small movements is a lot harder. And then you've got Bananas, who's like 5'10", reasonably well built, lean muscle. Like, this is the kind of stuff where you want to be that size. Like, Fessy's great for hall brawl, Fessy's great for pole wrestle. You get into stuff like this, like, I don't even know that CT could have done this.
Yeah, I think CT would have had issues. He's just too big.
Yeah. And he's shorter than Fessy. Like, he's my height. Like, CT and I are the same height. So,
how much do you think Bananas weighs?
I would have said 190 something.
190 something. Okay.
Yeah, he's 5'11", lean muscle.
You think he's 5'11"? I don't know if he's that tall.
He might be 5'10". He's taller than you think he is, but he's not that tall. He's definitely like 5'10"-ish, 5'11".
I think most people have said he's between 5'9" and 5'10". I might go a little bit lighter than that. His weight does fluctuate season by season.
I don't know. I think he's got at this point in time, I think he has quite a bit of weight on him. At other points in time, yeah, definitely he may have been lighter, but he definitely looks a little bit heavier. And
that's just age,
not heavy
man.
in a bad way. Yeah.
He's just old.
So did the two of you enjoy this elimination?
Yeah, I thought it was very good. It didn't seem like at a certain point we knew the way the cookie was going to crumble. It just didn't seem like Fessy and Moriah were getting anywhere. So I thought it was really well designed elimination, but just with how the matchup was, I guess I might have preferred something where it would have been a little bit more even. I'm trying to think what that would be, because anything physical, I think it would have not been even the other way. But I still thought it was very interesting to watch. At least it was a good matchup.
After Fessy and Moriah lose, Fessy says that he's proud of Moriah. Johnny talks about losing Moriah and her going home. Moriah starts to cry. She said she hopes Johnny wins. And she also says before they leave in a confessional that Fessy is actually a good guy when it comes down to it. And Nany brings up that this is the third elimination she's won this season, which I thought was interesting. Who were the previous two against, Rob?
She beat Moriah and she beat Amber, right? No, Amber. No, it wasn't Amber.
She beat Nerys, didn't? No, she beat.
Amber.
It's been so damn long. Who knows?
It's in the individuals.
All right, let's figure this out.
Did she win 3? I know she beat Moriah. How often does that happen where somebody beats the same person in elimination twice?
Yeah, it may have been twice, to be honest.
Has to be redemption seasons, which there ain't many of those.
So this thing is so fucking long at this point.
I think Paulie and Natalie lost to Devon and Jose twice.
So she beats Moriah twice. And did she win one like really early on? I only see two, to be honest.
No, because John didn't go in. Yeah, I don't
know,
think she won three.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, she beats Nany, beats Moriah, and then Nany beats with Johnny here, Fessy Moriah. I don't see another one on this list.
She must have just misspoken. I was thinking that in my head. Like I just don't swear there was only two.
It is only two. Maybe there was a third. Maybe there was a third that wasn't shown.
What would that have been?
I don't know. Maybe it was something that happened really on early in the game when they had to throw everything out the window and almost did like a clean restart.
Maybe they beat Jordan and Anissa and Darrell and Veronica and something to determine who got to go in the house first.
Possible. I don't
They
know.
had like some rock paper scissors competition.
Well, I think Darrell and Veronica were late additions because they were supposed to be a different team besides them, so it might have been they just weren't there yet.
All right.
Okay. We should probably get moving here because I do have to. Yeah.
Thank you for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week with a recap of episode 17, the first episode of the final. If you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/the challenge chronicle, subscribe for $4 per month. We're going to talk about our prop bets and go over how our predictions from the start of the season we're doing. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Talk to you again soon.